Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video of mine. It means a lot if you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. Today's video is going to be a really interesting one. It's going to be on whether I think a final two or a final three, and by that I mean a final tribal council is better for the game. You know what's the most fair? What makes the people who deserve to win the game the most often? We've seen, I believe, 8 seasons with the final two, and 18 seasons with the final two, and we've seen the other 22 be a final three or something like that. And I feel like it's a very distinct difference in how the end game plays out versus how final three end game plays out. And so I do think the difference is important and it's worth talking about. And that's the top for today. Before we start, 76% of you guys who are watching this video aren't subscribed. Let's change that. It's easy and it's free. And if that's it, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first thing that I want to touch on is the reason why the Final Three ever came into fruition. So up until season 12, it had been common knowledge that the Final Tribal had always been a Final Two. That's just how it worked. It was very digestible as a viewer because it was 1v1. Who is going to win? It's just this person to this person. But in season 12, the fan favorite, the overall fan favorite of the season that all of the viewers were rooting for had gotten knocked out at Final Three just because they lost the immunity challenge in Terry Dietz. And this had happened before with several people like Rob and other people like that. And because it had happened before, production was getting really, really tired of their fan favorite, the person who everybody wanted to win, who everyone would have been happy winning, going out at Final Three. Like it happened with Ian, and it happens with all of these people. And so I think at season 12 production got very tired of it, and so for season 13 at final three they instead of having Ozzy, Yule, and Becky go in a fire making contest, instead they just called it a final three. Now the fan favorite for the season was Ozzy in general, and it's funny because Ozzy ends up losing. What ends up happening is that um, their fan favorite, who this entire twist was built to give the advantage to, which is Ozzy, ends up getting screwed because if it had been a final two, then he beats Yule and Becky in the final three immunity challenge and takes Becky to the end, where he wins easily. But instead, because it was a final three, he then had to go up against Yule and lost to Yule in a very, very slim vote. And so it's funny. It's like Survivor originally put the final three into fruition because they wanted to help the fan favorite, but it ended up kind of screwing a lot of people away from a win who the overall general public was in fact rooting for. Um, Next, I want to touch on what it actually does like for the game. So really, when you bring the final tribal back one spot, or the ability, really what it is you're bringing the ability to vote somebody out last from final three to final four is what you're doing. Because when it was final two, you could vote somebody out at final three, and it was final three. Now the last time that you could vote somebody out is final four, until they added the fire making challenge, and now the last time that you can vote somebody out is final five. And so really what you're doing is just moving back the entire game, in my opinion, because just because someone's a threat and they would have gotten to final three in old school Survivor when it was a final two, doesn't mean that the people are going to let them get to the final three. Now they're probably going to kick them out at final four instead of final three. And so I feel like the twist originally, it was made to push back the game and allow for people who would have gotten into final three to, instead of losing in the challenge getting voted out, they could fight at final tribal. But it ends up kind of just moving the entire game back. So the person who would have got voted out third gets voted out fourth. The person who would have got voted out at fourth gets voted out at fifth, and so on and so on. And so in my opinion, the final three is the better option. Now I will say, you do end up with that goat. Usually one person in the final three gets less respect, and because people, it's so much easier in your brain to digest upon two people. And I guess that brings me to my next comment on it, which is the only positives for final two that I can see in myself is that it is so much more digestible, and you don't see it as obvious as like a third person out. There's no odd person out. It's 1v1. It's person v person. It's game v game. it's not game be game plus like there's Laurel there, or game be game plus there's Monica there, or game plus and so on and so on. Where we have that third person who's there who just doesn't do anything. It's kind of just sitting there, or like a game be game versus choice in. I don't want to see that, but and so for that reason, I do understand the value that the Final Two brings, because it does allow for there to be a person be the person mechanic in the game. My issue is that when you have a final three, you're not actually affecting the game. The only thing you're doing is kind of moving the game back, quite literally and also kind of figuratively through that. Because when you move the game backwards and have all of your star players get voted out one vote earlier, you're not doing anything except messing with the game for no reason. It doesn't help you at all as a show. It doesn't help you at all, as a fan base, and it really doesn't even do what you intended it to do. So in conclusion, I feel personally that the final three is the better option. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos. It means a lot. If you guys have any ideas, shoot them in the comments. I'm going on vacation right now, but I'm filming videos in bulk, and they should all be coming out over this week. Thank me later, and that's it. See you guys.